Here is a list of the most compelling comments we've received in the last 5 days. Want to get in on it? Leave a constructive and positive comment below to increase your chances. Mom disappears every time before Christmas. Son finally discovers the incredible reason for it. Christmas is the most important day of the year for many families all over the world. Wherever you are and whatever you do, you always try to return home to your loved ones to share this magical moment with them. The protagonist of this story had also eagerly awaited for Christmas, but there was something peculiar about this festival for him due to his mother's strange behavior. The woman always used to disappear for 3 hours every year, and her family had no idea where she went. She didn't want to reveal the real reason or explain anything. Little John was curious to find out the truth about his mother, and years later, when he finally managed to find it, he was baffled by the discovery. John Dorr lived in Highland, Illinois, and loved Christmas like any other kid in his childhood. He was fond of the decorations and bright lights all over town, and often used to ask his father to take him to the supermarket to see the mesmerizing fairy lights. Christmas morning was one of those rare occasions when the boy woke up before his alarm rang and snuck out of bed to find the gifts his parents prepared for him. That was also the only day he used to take a bath even before his mother would know he was awake. Christmas time had always made him cheerful and merry, yet it also made him quite curious about one little detail. Everything used to happen as usual on every Christmas, but there was one thing that made John sleepless at night.
And when I was growing up, elementary school, middle school, my mother would disappear for about 3 hours on Christmas Eve day.
Every Christmas, his mother would go somewhere without telling him whereabouts. This strange thing became a ritual and has been happening since the boy remembered anything. When he was younger, he didn't pay much attention to her absence, but the questions started popping up when he got older. As John grew up, he started asking his mother regularly about her disappearance. Every time she used to make up different excuses to satisfy his curiosity. John knew his mother was a very kind person who wouldn't do anything that could hurt her husband or family. As the years passed, he gave up and didn't ask her the same question every year. Now the boy just wanted to be sure she was safe and sound. But still, where did she go? Would he ever be able to find out the truth one day? Years passed by and John became a writer and teacher. Sue, his mother, was proud of her son and always motivated him to find his calling. The man started traveling around the whole world to promote his books. However, he would always come home for Christmas. A few years later, he settled down in Mississippi and worked in a school for 30 years before moving to Georgia in England. After being a teacher for so many years, John started working as a consultant in the Gateway Writing Project, GWP, which was supported by the University of Missouri St. Louis. He traveled to many schools to aid both teachers and students in projects related to reading and writing. Yes, he found his calling and earned quite decently too. The Gateway Writing Project is a St. Louis branch of the National Writing Project. It helps students in any possible way to read and write to find a brighter future. John helped motivate and uplift students coming from all backgrounds to achieve their goals. Meanwhile, the man also worked for a magazine called a Straight Up magazine for nearly 2 years. The magazine published anything concerning music, art, and cultural news happening in Belleville, Illinois. For John, it was his way to express his creativity and write whatever he wanted without restricting himself to a specific genre. And John was indeed a creative man with millions of ideas. So after a few years, he plucked up the courage and started writing a series of books named 99 Words to encourage people to write their feelings out. There was something peculiar about this series. It contained 99 stories with 99 words each. The man explained in 2016 to the Sun Herald that the book can easily be called a lesson in word economy. John became quite popular in his field, and everyone was proud of him and his collaborated ventures. Even the facilitators at the Carlinville Writers Guild used to praise John. Robin seemed to be totally in love with his works and often said that he manages to find humor in just about everything, and he's got a great imagination. While speaking highly of him, she never forgot to mention the name of the incredible series 99 Words, which got a lot of respect from John's friends and colleagues. Once, she said, he came up with some hilarious stories for 99 Words. Some of them are just absurd, but others are really poignant. We love him and we're all really proud of him. Behind every successful person, there's someone who constantly motivates them and believes in them. For John, his inspiration was always his dear mother. The man remembered the times when she used to tell him stories, which instilled in him the desire to become a writer. He recalled, "I'd take my mom on trips in the summer and she'd tell me stories." He added, I tried to record them, but the minute I pulled out a recorder, she'd clam up. Sue was an ambient person who adored other people and always tried to help them. She loved throwing parties for her friends and was the most wonderful host. Even though she had such a wide circle of close friends, no one had a clue as to where she used to disappear the evening of every Christmas. Her husband didn't even know it and was confused by her strange behavior. Whenever John used to ask his father,
and I'd said, "Dad, where's Mom?" And he'd go, "I don't know, probably shopping, And I said, "No, she gets her gifts done before Thanksgiving. She's finished." And he said, "Well, maybe she forgot a few gifts." So that's what we thought she was doing for 4 or 5 years.
No, his father also wasn't sure that she used to go shopping. After so many years of trying to find the real reason for her mother's disappearance, the family gave up and accepted her theory that she used to go shopping to purchase last-minute gifts and sweets. However, when she came home, the woman always complained that she couldn't find any good gifts. What was she hiding? And the main question, why? As John grew older, his curiosity increased every year. Even though his mother knew her family didn't believe in her, she continued to lie and vanish for a few hours every Christmas. Even after knowing that people were suspicious, why didn't she stop? With every year, John was becoming more concerned with his mother's safety. He wished she'd tell her about it, but he didn't know how to start the conversation. After all, the chances she'd tell him the truth when she'd kept it a secret for so many years were not great. It was an important year for the man, as he was trying to get his stories published in Chicken Soup for the Soul. A lot of writers wanted their stories to be published in this book, as it meant a lot for them and was a real honor, and John was one of them. Meanwhile, he realized time slips out of your hand just like sand. Nevertheless, he couldn't pluck up the courage to talk to his mom about the most burning question that was torturing him for years. Even though John had thought that he'd ask his mother about her disappearance, it looked like he waited too long and missed his opportunity, and he was right. Before the man could approach her and ask about her odd behavior, the old lady passed away, being in her early 70s. The secret she'd kept for so many years had gone with her to the grave. When John came to his mother's grave, his heart was broken into tiny pieces. There were so many things he planned to do and so many words he intended to say, but it was too late. He wanted to tell her that he always believed in her and wanted to care for her, but now she was gone. The man spent the whole night shedding tears of inexpressible sorrow. Now, John lost hope to find his mother's secret and found himself crying every time he thought of her. She was the only person that always believed in him and motivated him to overcome all the challenges on his way. Thanks to her, he managed to follow his dreams and find his calling. The man wanted to become famous, and now when he was famous, his darling admirer passed away. John had everything any person would desire: money, glory, admiration. He could eat whatever he wanted or visit anywhere in the world, but when his mother died, his life was devoid of meaning or purpose or hope. He closed himself in his house and would rarely go out. He didn't answer any calls and didn't reply to messages until he received a letter that changed his life forever. A few weeks after his mom's death, John received a strange letter from an unknown sender. He picked it up and threw it on the table, not wanting to know what was written in it. The only thing he wanted was to be with his father because it was his presence that could soothe the pain. The man supposed it might have been some collaboration request, so he didn't open it. But the next morning, something had changed his mind and his gut feeling told him to pick it up. What was inside the letter? John tore the envelope open and took the letter out. Again, the sender, whose name was Robert, was completely alien to John. He'd never worked with a man called Robert. His curiosity piqued and he continued reading. Who was Robert and why did he send the letter to John? Looks like Robert knew his mother. You see, they were colleagues when she was working at the toilet seat factory. John started wondering why the man would want to reach out. He thought Robert wished to come pay homage to his deceased mother, but somehow wasn't able to do so. It was too hard for John to continue reading as the wound wasn't healed, so he put the letter aside and started doing something else. However, he couldn't concentrate on anything as the message that was hiding inside the letter couldn't let him go. So John went back to his table and picked up the paper in his hands once again and started to read.
And then she died in 1990. Shortly after her death, I received a letter from a man named Robert, and in the letter he explained that my mom had been playing Santa Claus for he and his wife.
Robert's letter started with the following words: "I just wanted you to know how much my family and I appreciate what your mother's done for us all these years." John couldn't figure it out at first. To clear his doubts, he kept on reading. The letter read, "Every year on Christmas Eve, your mom comes to my house dressed like Mrs. Claus and gives them a Christmas we can't afford to give them." Now, the secret his mother had been hiding for years was uncovered. John couldn't hold his emotions and tears started rolling down his face. But there was more to this revelation. Robert's letter further continued, "She's given them shoes, shirts, jeans, toys, and candy. I know your heart is heavy and that you're missing Miss Sue. We do too," he added. "We loved her and just wanted you to know what she's done for us." When John finally got the whole truth laid bare in front of his eyes, he was too overwhelmed to say anything. The letter revealed that his mother would disguise herself as Mrs. Claus and used to make kids cheerful and happy. Now the pieces of the puzzle seemed to fit. John couldn't say a word, but now he respected her more than ever. After reading it to the end, the man went to his father to tell him the truth. The older man was genuinely stunned. He just wanted to embrace his wife and tell her he was the luckiest man on earth. He always knew she was an incredibly kind person, but that day he was proud of her.
And she never talked about it with anyone. She didn't do it for any, attention. Just did it. That was just part of her character, part of her spirit.
Then the father asked his son to write Robert a letter and thank him for the opportunity to know such a fantastic secret about their loving wife and mom. John instantly agreed, so he didn't waste any more time and sat down to write a letter to the man. Even though John was a talented writer, at that moment it was too complicated for him to put any words together. He was sobbing while remembering his mother. But somehow he managed to write a reply and added, "That short note was the best gift that I ever received from anyone." After that, he sent the letter to Robert's address. Was that the end? Well, you won't believe what John did afterward. You see, writers often take inspiration from everything that happens to them in their life. And for John, his experience was something he wanted to share with the world. That night, he couldn't close his eyes. His mind was so full of thoughts that he wanted to put it down on paper. For John, the story that just happened wasn't just a story. It was pure emotion that he was determined to share with everyone who read it. He wanted to immortalize Sue's kind action into something that would never die. Finally, in 2016, John was invited to send a story for the Christmas edition of The Toy of Christmas by Chicken Soup for the Soul. He was over the moon when his hard work paid off, and John was sure that invitation was a gift that God had given him on Christmas thanks to his mother's good deeds. Amy Newmark, a publisher and editor-in-chief, fell for the story when she read it for the first time. John was aware there were lots of writers who dreamed of getting published, so the man found himself very lucky when he was invited to submit his story for the Christmas edition. It was his biggest dream finally come true. But before writing the story about his mother, John wanted to get featured in the Chicken Soup for the Soul to become famous and earn a lot of money. This time he didn't think about glory and the thousands of opportunities he'd be bombarded with. His main motive was to tell the whole world that good actions are never in vain, just like making others a bit happier never goes out of style. And fortunately, he managed to successfully carry out that mission.